Ladies and gentlemen, dear student, hello and welcome to our TV English lesson. As you know, we have started a series of English lessons as an attempt to cover the fourth year secondary education program. To start my lesson, I'm going to show you a reminder of what we have seen in the previous lessons. As you know, we have been mainly talking about holidays, and here are some activities that one can enjoy on holiday. Let's look at this picture. Here we have some swimming pools. If we look closer to the picture, we can see the beach, the sea. So this is what we call a seaside resort. Some people don't like going to seaside resorts. They prefer to go to the beach directly, to the sea, so they can enjoy sunbathing and swimming. For active ones, you can practice your favorite sports. If you are interested in the cultural side of holidays, there are plenty of means of entertainment for you. For example, visiting museums or going to art exhibitions or galleries. If adventures are your thing, you can go on a safari, so you can enjoy wildlife, nature, and you can learn about the life in nature, right? You can enjoy the beauty of nature. All in all, something common to all of these activities is traveling, as this man is doing. Let's try to think of some proverbs and quotations related to traveling. Here is the first one. It's a proverb. He travels fastest who travels alone. Let's read it again. He travels fastest who travels alone. Well, here we're talking about traveling, of course, and this proverb says that it is better to travel alone because you can go faster, and of course when you are alone you can do the activities that you want, you can visit the places you want to. You don't have to follow a group. But is it fun to travel alone? Of course not, because you can enjoy the traveling in groups, and you can enjoy a group atmosphere. That's why some people take a package tour, like we saw in the previous lesson. The second one, he who travels far knows much. He who travels far knows much. Here, traveling is related to knowledge. Of course, when you travel, you learn. For example, let's take the example of learning a language. If you want to learn a foreign language, it's better to travel to the foreign country and practice that language. So learning is enjoyable, so you can learn and acquire knowledge while you are traveling. The third one here is a quotation by Saint Augustine. The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only a page. The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only a page. Well, here, this quotation perfectly explains the previous proverb, because again, we are talking about learning and knowledge. And if you don't travel, you have only a limited view on the world and on your life. You just know your country, you just know your city, or maybe just your neighborhood, and nothing more. So when you travel, you get to learn about life, you get to learn about the world. The fourth and last proverb, he who doesn't travel doesn't know the value of men. He who doesn't travel doesn't know the value of men. Here, we're talking again also about traveling, and when you travel, you get to know the value of men. Of course, when you travel, you meet different people, different persons. You learn about different cultures. So you get to know the value of every man. You get to communicate with people. So traveling here encourages communication between peoples and understanding between them. So you get to know the real value of men. Let's recapitulate now. We talked about holidays. Here there are different activities you can do, different places you can go to. You can enjoy nature with all its different facets, the forest, the sea, the desert, of course. Or, as we have been just saying, you can go traveling, you can travel around the world, you can travel to different countries. Now, let's watch this video and learn about maybe another destination. Let's look at this video here. We have what can be a plane, but it's going too fast and too high to be a plane. We can ask ourselves, where is it going? Let's look. It's really going too high. It even went out of our planet. So we can see the whole planet, Earth, from very, very high in the sky, maybe even out of the sky. Okay, let's watch more. This is something new, maybe a new destination for a holiday. As you see, we can see clearly our planet, the blue planet. Okay, now it's going to land, as you can see, slowly but surely. Okay, and now we can watch the landing on Earth, of course. Okay, so this is our video now. Now, what we saw is the picture of Earth here, and this is a picture these are pictures that were probably taken from space, maybe by that ship that we have just seen taking off, then landing. So we can ask ourselves, what are we talking about? If we try to link these pictures to what we have seen earlier, we can think of space, probably, but is it going to be a destination? Is it really a new holiday destination? All in all, we talked about space, of course. Let's try to think of some words related to space. The first one here is astronaut. An astronaut is a person whose job is to go to space and visit space or explore space, of course. Now, what do you see here? Here we see the place from which the plane or the ship takes off, and we call it a launch pad. To launch is to go to space, of course. Now, the engine that we saw taking off or being launched is what we call a spaceship. Of course, before a spaceship is launched, there must be a countdown. You know, when we count from 10 to 0, so that the spaceship has the permission to take off. So, the astronauts on the spaceship will be able to enjoy a space flight. And flight is, of course, the noun from the verb to fly. So, we will be able to take a space flight. Now, once in space, you can land on the moon. We have seen in the video the spaceship landing slowly. There, in space, you can land on the moon, for example. And when you land on the moon, there will probably be a space station, or maybe many space stations. Look here, these are some astronauts, and what we see in the picture is that they are flying somewhere. And why are they flying? Because, of course, when you are in space, your body has no more weight. Your body is not heavy anymore, so it's all due to zero gravity, and you can experience weightlessness as your body lost its weight. Now here, this is a picture of a satellite, and the job of an astronaut maybe is to fix a satellite, so we can get TV shows, for example, from other countries. So it's really something that we use in our everyday life. Now, let me describe this picture to you. Here, here we can see a ship that is going to land, and this is something that is like an airport, but in this context, we must call it a spaceport. Now, if we try to link the two, the spaceport and the airport, we think of an airport as a place where passengers go in order to take trips by airplanes, of course. Now, in a spaceport, passengers will go in order to take a space flight. So we can imagine here two people, two normal people, not necessarily astronauts, who are going to take their bags and go on a space flight. So we can imagine ourselves on the moon or on another planet taking pictures and enjoying ourselves. So we will be behaving like tourists. So we can talk about space tourism. Space tourism is something new that maybe some of you or most of you don't know about. So what is space tourism exactly? Let's try to define it. We're going to complete with what is appropriate to get a definition of space tourism. We have these words that are separated by slashes. Space tourism, recent phenomenon, individuals, pay, huge amount, money, and space travel. Now, we're going to keep the same order of these words, but every slash will be replaced by a missing part, something that we need in order to get a good sentence. Since they're going to be in the same order, we're going to keep them this way. Let's think of the first space, yes. Space tourism here is the subject of our sentence. So after a subject, we need a verb. Now, the verb that we can use in order to define something is verb to be. And since it is a definition, we must put it in the simple present. So it will be is. Now, recent phenomenon. Phenomenon is a noun. Recent is an adjective. So before it, we just need an article. So the result will be space tourism is the recent phenomenon. It's a phenomenon, then we have individuals. So we must link these two words by a preposition, of course. So we put of. Individuals or persons, of course. Then we have the verb pay. So these individuals are going to pay. In order to link these two, we must put who, of course. Then again, we have amount, which is a noun, huge, an adjective, so we just need an article. Space tourism is the recent phenomenon of individuals who pay a huge amount. Then money, and here again we use the preposition of. Okay, so you pay a huge amount of money. We can say you spend money on something, but you pay money for something, so for space travel. So this is our sentence. Space tourism is the recent phenomenon of individuals who pay a huge amount of money for space travel. This sentence here is going to be the topic sentence of our paragraph. So this paragraph, as we know, the topic sentence expresses the main idea of a paragraph, so the paragraph will be about space tourism. So we will learn more about space tourism. As you see, there are some words between brackets, and we are asked to put them in the right tense or form. Let me explain this question to you. If we think of form, we will need a noun, an adjective, comparative, superlative, a verb, and so on. There are many forms, of course. And if we need a verb, we will think of what tense to use. Simple present, simple past, future, and so on. And we will know the tense, of course, according to the context of the text. Let's try to do this exercise together. Space tourism is the recent phenomenon of individuals who pay a huge amount of money for space travel, mainly for personal satisfaction. Among the primary attract, then blank, of space tourism are the uniqueness of the experience, the thrill and awe of look, then blank, at Earth from space, described by astronauts as extreme, blank, intense, and mind-boggling. Okay, let's try to think of the first one. Among the primary is an adjective, and as you know, adjectives are made to describe nouns, so it must be followed by a noun. The noun from attract is attraction, of course. But here, let's look at this verb to be and are. So can we say attraction? If I say attraction, I will use is. So here we must think of the plural form of the noun, which is attractions, of course. The uniqueness of the experience, the thrill and awe of, as we know, must be followed by an ing form. So, of looking at Earth from space. Described by astronauts as, now let's try to do a little experience here. If we read the sentence without putting anything in this blank, if I say, described by astronauts as intense and mind-boggling, will the meaning change? Well, of course not, because it's okay to say this as intense and mind-boggling. But so here we just need something to enrich our sentence, something to, in a way, describe the adjective, which is intense. So we just need an adverb. How do we constitute adverbs? It's composed of an adjective and ly. So we say extremely. Okay, let's move to the other sentence. One can also experience the very, then blank, advantages of weightlessness. Again, here we have advantages, which is a noun in the plural. So we need something to describe the noun advantages. So we're going to need an adjective. The adjective from verb to vary is various. The space tourism industry target, then blank, by spaceports in numerous locations. Here, the hint that is going to be helpful to us is by, of course. So when we find by, we need to think of the passive form. Now the passive form is verb to be plus past participle. So we need to think of what tense to use for to be. Now here we have one can also experience. Are, the uniqueness. Everything is in the present, so why change? We're going to put the present. Our subject is the space tourism industry. It's a singular subject, so we're going to use is, and the past participle of target is targeted. During the 1960s and 1970s, it was a common, then we have believe, that space hotels would be launched by 2000. So, this is our sentence. The blank is put right after common, which is an adjective again. So, we must think of a noun. The noun from believe is belief with F. Many futurologists around the middle of the 20th century speculate, then blank, that the average family of the early 21st century would be able to enjoy a holiday on the moon. Now, this here we can notice that we changed the tense. We have futurologists around the middle of the 20th century. The middle of the 20th century would correspond to the 1950s. So it is something in the past. And since we have the time hint, we are supposed to use the simple past, which is speculated. The second one, here we have able. Someone is able to do something. So would be able to enjoy a holiday on the moon. Okay, so this is our text. Now, space tourism is clear in our minds now, but we may wonder, is it something true? Are there really people who went to space? Well, the answer is yes, there were many space tourists already. The first one ever to go to space is Dennis Tito. He was followed by Mark Shuttleworth, then Gregory Olsen. Of course, you may guess that they are very rich and they have a lot of money to spend, so that's why they went to space. And the first female ever to go to space was Anousheh Ansari. Well, apart from spending their money, there must be another reason, or maybe other reasons, to go to space. Let's go back to our text and try to find some reasons that pushed these persons, and maybe others, to go to space. Space tourism, as we said, is the recent phenomenon of individuals who pay a huge amount of money for space travel, mainly for personal satisfaction. So this can be a reason. It's people go to space just for personal satisfaction. Among the primary attractions of space tourism are the uniqueness of the experience. So again, the experience is something unique here, and it is something good to do something unique, to be reminded with. So it's the uniqueness of the experience. Then we have the thrill and awe of looking at Earth from space. This really must be something interesting to look at space from to look at Earth from space. So this is maybe another reason. One can also experience the various advantages of weightlessness. You remember the picture we saw previously where astronauts were flying, so you may guess that this is something one would love to experience, which are the advantages of weightlessness. Okay, but can we think of other reasons? There must be some other reasons to travel to space. One of them can be escaping from problems on Earth. Of course, when you are in space, there's no pollution, no noise, everything is calm, no overpopulation, so you just escape from the problems you have on Earth. Another reason would be promoting science and new technologies. Of course, as I said, it is something expensive to go to space, so space tourists pay a lot of money, and this money is used in order to promote science and new technologies. You remember this woman, Anousheh Ansari, who was the first female space tourist. She is an engineer, she's an electrical engineer, and one of the reasons why she went to space was to promote science, because she is really into science. Let's learn more about her in this text. This is our text. Let's read it. Now that she's returned from her space trip, American space tourist Anousheh Ansari has some things to take care of on Earth: developing a new company, promoting science and space travel, and spending time with her family. But Ansari doesn't want to stay on this planet for too long. She loves that feeling of freedom that one gets from being in space. Ansari's trip to space was preceded by a 6-month training. It was a personal milestone for a woman who remembers gazing at the stars as a child and wondering if there was somebody like her out there somewhere. But it was also part of a push to promote commercial space travel, an effort she will continue to pursue. She helped finance a $10 million prize that was awarded in 2004 to the makers of the first privately funded manned spacecraft. Okay, now after reading this text, we learn more about Anousheh Ansari and the reasons why she went to space. Let's have some reading comprehension questions about this text. One of the most commonly used question in our tests, of course, is this one. The following statements are false, and you're supposed to correct them with details from the text. Here, I'll try to help you by giving you some pieces of advice about how to deal with such a question. The first statement is, Ansari has no more interest in our planet. So after reading the statement, understanding it, we will try. Of course, we have read the text previously, so we will just try to locate the wrong information. What is false in this statement? Of course, since we know the text, it is the fact that she has no more interest in our planet. This is wrong. So, since we have the paragraph from which we're going to take our justification, we go back to the text in order to find something which is opposed or which has a different meaning from this wrong information. Let's go back to our text. It's in paragraph 1. Let's read. Now that she's returned from her space trip, American space tourist Anousheh Ansari has some things to take care of on Earth. So this is going to be our justification in that she is still interested in Earth, of course, and she will take care of some things on Earth. Let's see another sentence. Ansari never showed any interest in space before her trip. Of course, this sentence is false, and what is false exactly in this sentence is that she never showed any interest in space before her trip. Of course, we know that this is wrong. So let's go back to our text, paragraph 2. So Ansari's trip to space was preceded by a 6-month training. It was a personal milestone for a woman who remembers gazing at the star as child. So her interest in space started from childhood. So this is going to be our justification. A woman who remembers gazing at the stars as child. The third and last statement is this one. Ansari went to space without being prepared for her trip. Again, this is a wrong sentence. Something is false here. What is exactly false is that she wasn't prepared, without being prepared. Let's go back to our paragraph, read it and try to find a good justification. Ansari's trip to space was preceded by a 6-month training. So she received a training, she was prepared to her trip. So this is our justification. Ansari's trip to space was preceded by a 6-month training. Now, let's take this sentence. Ansari's trip was preceded by a 6-month training. As you notice, I put this expression in a different color because I'm going to ask you about it. What is its meaning? What does it mean, a 6-month training? I'm going to give you 3 possibilities. Is it one training every 6 months? Is it a training that lasts 6 months? Or 6 trainings that last a month? Well, I know it's a little complicated, but let's try to see this expression and read it more. A 6-month training. Training is a noun, of course, so as we said, nouns are usually preceded by adjectives. So 6 month is an adjective, so we are describing the training. So the right option from these 3 is a training that lasts 6 months. That's it. So let's try to think of this. I said that this is an adjective, 6 month, and this adjective is composed of 2 parts separated by a hyphen. So we call it a compound adjective. This is our explanation, a training that lasts 6 months. We want to form the compound adjective. So how do we do? How do we proceed? Of course, the first thing, we must start with an article. A. We take the article, we put it in the first position. Then what are we describing? We need to put the noun. We are describing the training. So training is moved, but it is put in the last position. Then to form this type of compound adjective, we're going to put first the number 6, then a hyphen, very important, don't forget it. Then we put the singular noun this time. As you see here, it's month, and in the explanation we have months. So why is that? Well, this is the rule. The compound adjective, this type of compound adjectives, when we have a number, is composed of number hyphen singular noun. Even if this number is very big, you just put a singular noun. But in the explanation, don't forget to replace the S, okay? Let's practice now. I'm going to give you 2 sentences. You remember, it was the 3rd space tourist, Gregory Olsen. I told you he's very rich. Well, he paid $20 million for his 10-day excursion to space, of course. 10-day excursion to space. This is a compound adjective followed by a noun. So we want to put its explanation. What does it mean? Of course, we're describing the excursion. This is our noun. So it is an excursion, and 10-day is the duration. So it lasted 10 days, of course. So he paid $20 million for his excursion that lasted 10 days. Don't forget the S, of course. Let's have another sentence. Now we will do the other way around. We have the explanation and we need the compound adjective. Virgin Galactic will arrange flights that will last 2 hours. Flights that will last 2 hours. Again, we need to put first the number, which is 2, followed by a hyphen, then the singular noun, so hours, but without S, so hour. And what are we describing? We are describing the flights, of course. So the sentence is, Virgin Galactic will arrange 2-hour flights. Here we didn't put an article here because we have a plural noun. Okay, so now we have seen many facets of space tourism, but we mainly talked of its positive effects. But you know, it's not always rainbows and butterflies here. Space tourism has some disadvantages, of course. So we're going to have some writing about this. You read the following opinion in your local newspaper. Let's see this opinion by Mr. Jack Williams, as you see. It's useless to spend millions of dollars on space trips just to admire our planet from outer space. These millions should rather be spent on more serious issues going on Earth. Well, this is an opinion that we are going to comment on. So we're going to write a letter to the editor of the newspaper to tell him that you agree with Mr. Williams. So we are obliged to agree here because we must follow what the topic is telling us. So we're going to agree with Mr. Williams. Okay, so of course when we're going to write, there's a process that we must follow. There are many steps that we must follow and use. The first one is we must ask ourselves what? What are we going to write? Well, here of course we're going to write a letter. Now, it's easy to write a letter, of course, but we must know what type of letter we're going to write. There are many types. It can be a formal letter, it can be an informal letter, a letter of complaint, many types of letter. Here, we are interested in knowing if it's formal or informal. So, in order to know this, we must ask another question, which is who? Who is going to read our letter? Well, it's the editor of a newspaper. So first, this is someone that we don't know, and this is someone who has somehow a high social position. He is an editor of a newspaper. So we must be polite with this person. We must show him some respect. So it is going to be a formal letter. When we think of formal letters, of course, there are some things that we must put in our minds, which are not using short forms. I can say I'm, I must write I am. I can say don't, I must write do not. And of course, if I'm going to say something to oppose this person, I must be very tactful and polite. Then the other question is why? So why am I going to write this letter? I am asked to agree with Mr. Williams. So to agree on what? Of course, I'm going to say, this is my main idea, that money should be spent on serious issues on Earth rather than space tourism. So this is going to be our main idea, our purpose, why we're going to write this letter. Once these questions are asked, we need to move to collecting ideas, of course. You shouldn't start writing from the first position. You must collect ideas. You must make everything clear in your minds first. Well, we need to collect ideas. We can say that space tourism has many drawbacks, of course, because we're going to talk of the negative effects of space tourism. And its drawbacks, the drawbacks here are going to be mainly the fact of spending millions and millions for something that is just going to give you a personal satisfaction, something that is not really important. So we can say the money spent on space tourism should be used to solve the problems we face on Earth. Now, of course, we need to make our ideas clear. We're going to talk about problems. What type of problems can we talk about? We can talk about education. Some people don't have access to education. We can talk about poverty and hunger. Yes, people are too poor to find something to eat. So we should take care of this first before going to space and just for space tourism. We can talk about health also. So many people have health problems, they don't have enough doctors, so we should provide them with these first. Men should take care of these problems first. And we can say, visiting space may sound attractive, of course, it is attractive when you are rich, but the finances should be spent on alleviating or eliminating social and economic ills and problems. Now, once we have ideas, of course, you can collect as many ideas as you have, we move to finding some useful expressions. In our letter here, we're going to agree with Mr. Williams. So we're going to say, I totally agree with you. Totally here emphasizes, it stresses, we insist that we really agree with this person. You can say, to give your opinion, I see that, I think, I find it difficult to accept space tourism. I think that spending millions is useless when we have so many problems on Earth. We can use also according to me, in my opinion. As you notice, we use I, me, my, because this is something personal. We are writing the letter, so we are allowed to use I and to talk about ourselves. Now, a part of this, of course, we need to link our ideas. We need to make it coherent, so we must use some linkers. Indeed, besides, in addition to that, additionally, moreover. Indeed can be used to stress an information, to give an argument that we really believe in. Besides is to introduce a stronger argument than the previous one. So we use it to, again, reinforce, to give a stronger argument. In addition, additionally, moreover, are used to add arguments, to organize your arguments, to add them to one another. So now we must think of the form of our letter. Of course, it's a letter, so we must start by dear Mr. Dear editor of the newspaper. We must finish by the signature, but something also very important is organizing our ideas. We must have, to make it easier on you, we must have 3 clear parts. Of course, the first part would be an introduction. An introduction where we're just going to give the reasons for writing. Why are we writing exactly? And we're going to formulate the main idea. When we think of an introduction, of course, the person who is going to read your letter or your writing is going to read the introduction first. So our